The Man presents John Smith. The Man presents Johnny Smith Boy. The Man presents John Smith presents The Man. The Man presents John Smith. It was a Saturday and my name was John Smith. I was a door-to-door brick salesman. I walked up to house 207, banged loudly on the door. No answer. I knocked a second time. No answer. I knocked a third time, and a woman opened a door, and was like, "Hello." And I was like, "Hello, I'm John Smith, and I would like to sell you some grade bricks." The woman looked at John Smith and slammed shut the door. "Another one gun in the wind," said John Smith. John Smith picks up his bag of bricks and continues along. 16 houses later, all rejections, John Smith decides to give up. I'm walking home when rain starts a pouring. Drizzly pitter-patter 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 drop-drop. "Boy, I can't see a darn thing," said John Smith. And that's when he saw a figure that looked like a woman. And then a flash of lightning and she was gone. John Smith was so scared that he peed himself. "Boy, I have to get home to change my undies." I went home, went to my room, and threw on some classic new underwear, and I was ready to relax at home. I plopped myself down and I start watching an episode of Teen Moms, and then I notice that the characters are out of shape, so I decided to run to get into shape. Previously I'd been running for 7 days. And I was like, woof, now that's a workout I don't want to do again. Whose bright idea was it to run? Editor's note: wait, what? He decided to go running because he'd seen Teen Moms, but he'd already been running 7 days previously. End editor's note. I was running down the street, and the lights began to turn off behind me when I heard a loud screech come from the house behind me. I decided to ignore it. Or did I? I did. God bless you. It began to get dark, so I decided to jog my way home, when it began raining for a second time. There was a flash of lightning, and the woman popped up again for a second. I made it home, I slammed the door, and I realized I'd never turned off Teen Moms. I was like, ugh, the electric bill is going to go up, and I don't have the money to pay it off. I'm going to have to get a second job. Sigh. Might as well watch some Teen Moms now that it's on, I said. I plopped my booty in the seat and began watching Teen Moms. Then my maid Claudia came in and said, "Mr. John Smith." "Yes, Claudia. Someone is here to see you." "Thank you, Claudia." "No problem, John Smith." I get up from my chair and make my way to the door. I open the door and it's a woman, wearing sunglasses. I said, "Nice sunglasses, where'd you get them, Alabama?" She ripped off the sunglasses and she had no eyes. "Wooga wooga," said John Smith. "Put those shades back on, girl," said John Smith. 78444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444444 723 tomorrow. Wooga wooga. I yawn. And then I sleep. I wake up in a bright shining morning. And I say, gotta make a living, and I grab the sack of bricks and begin my sales day. After doing 23 houses, no one has bought bricks from me. I have a negative net profit from these bricks. The man told me these bricks would pay for themselves. Wait a minute. The man. I proceed to walk over and then I pass by a house marked 723. Dun dun doo doo dwan. I was going to ignore the house, but there was a sign saying, "We buy bricks." So I had to sell. I walk up to the door and I knock once and the door immediately flies open. There was a middle-aged man standing there with a huge smile on his face and he said, "Bricks." And no, he was not pale. And I respond with, "One brick coming up." I open my sack without looking, reach down and attempt to grab a brick. But I felt a nose instead. I opened the sack to investigate further. It was the woman looking up at me and she said, "I told you not to sell at house 723. I look up at the man. It's not the man, but the middle-aged man. And he wasn't there. He was a skull on the ground. I feared for my life. I shrieked. I cringed. I dropped my bricks and ran away and never looked back. I'm running back to the house, hair blowing in the wind, cheeks fluttering in the wind, eye lights shut in the wind. I bashed in my door and yelled out, "Claudia!" But she was dead. I get down on my knees. I grab Claudia. I'm as pale as a goat. And I say, "Claudia, who did this?" She looked at me and said, "Nnndunna." She disintegrated in my arms. I had to go wash my hands cause I was a germaphobe and I had dead particles all over me, so I went to go wash my hands. I was washing my hands when I looked up and saw I was still pale as a goat. I said, "Whoa, that's pretty weird." Then I got a knock on my door. It was my neighbor Johnson. Johnson was like, "You got any sugar lying around this joint?" I was like, "Yeah, Johnson," and I went to my kitchen to look for some sugar. I couldn't find any sugar. No sugar in sight. I said, man, Johnson is not going to be happy with the lack of sugar in this household, I'll tell you that much." I was walking back to Johnson when I feared his reaction to the sugar scenario. I closed my eyes and brushed into the room. I yelled, "Johnson, I ain't got no sugar." That's when I opened my eyes, and Johnson had a crossbow through his head. I looked at him in awe. And I knew what I had to do. Feed. I pulled out my trusty fork, and I began to eat Johnson. I walked outside and the mailman said, "Looking pretty pale today, John Smith. You look stupid." As the mailman was walking away, I pull out a lasso, throw it over the mailman, and then pull him in. I ate him. I ate him. I ate him. I ran to my kitchen, bathroom. Looked in the mirror. And I had no face. I became a shadow. And then the man from 723 comes knocking on my door. And then the man says I'm the man. And then the man tried to eat John Smith, but because John Smith was a shadow, nothing happened, so the man said, "Okay," and went home. And then John Smith lived a long sad life because he was a shadow, and swore revenge on the woman and the man. He got on his knees and yelled, "Into the sky, Niet Floaks." End of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.